welcome everyone. This is something which we have been doing since few months now. I'm sure a lot of people must have also attended our previous webinars. We try to choose some interesting topics which are basically kind of useful, or we can say informative to the immigration industry. And even the today's topic which we have chosen is ultimately has been considered by even reviewing the suggestions which we received from the previous webinars, and also looking at the awareness of insurance policies which is currently rising these days. So we kind of thought that this will be a really interesting topic for you guys, for you to have more knowledge on, so that you can even inform your clients or your students who are visiting to you. So as you can see that today's session is all about how you guys can master the Australian health insurance policy. Yeah. So of course we will be getting more into detail once we move forward. And I mean, before I even start with the different things, I would like to even mention a small quote which was basically said by Mr. Benjamin Franklin. I'm sure everyone knows that. He once said that an investment in knowledge pays the best interest. So, I mean, this quote completely resonates deeply with our topic today, because understanding the nuances of health insurance is an investment in the health and future of our students, of course. The knowledge we gain today will empower us to make informed decisions, which is very important, provide better support, and ultimately contribute to the success and well-being of our student community. Again, glad to have you all. And before I move forward, I would like to just quickly give you a short introduction of myself. So my name is Bhavesh Matiramani. I am basically a expert at Conze, working as a customer success manager. And today we have a subject matter expert who is, her name is Ila, of course. So Ila is an accomplished professional in the field of international education and student services. After completing her higher education in New Zealand, she successfully established and expanded an agency's presence in India, growing it to 4 branches and earning the Best Business Partner of the Year award from IDP, which is a great achievement. Ila later moved to Australia, where she significantly increased student enrollments and introduced key programs like commercial cookery with CRICOS accreditation. She collaborated with universities to create pathways for vet students to transition into higher education, and worked with Australian and Indonesian government on the APRO program, delivering Australian qualifications in Indonesia. Additionally, she has supported students in meeting AHPRA registration requirements as well. So for the past 5 years, Ila has been with Allianz right now, specializing in overseas student health insurance. She's also qualified in migration law, providing comprehensive assistance to students as well as agents. So she is actually the perfect subject matter, who can give your answers in case if you have any questions. And Ila, if you would like to say something, please go ahead.
First of all, thanks to you, Bhavesh, and the extended team to have me on board today to speak about overseas student health cover, which I'm very, very passionate about. And obviously, thank you to everyone who's taken the time to join this. I'm sure at the end of it, you will probably gain something and learn something that you would think you can take back with you, and which is very knowledgeable. So yeah, I hope I can impart a little bit of learning and knowledge that sits with me currently. But yeah, I'm very glad to be here today. Thank you.
Likewise, Ila, we are really glad to have you today. And then, yeah, let's kick off our today's session, guys. So, why we chose this topic? I mean, I gave you a hint earlier as well. Considering the current scenarios, there is, a lot of awareness which is being created, even by the governments, even by the immigration consultants, with regards to the insurance. Now, insurance is something which is really important. Ideally, it is not mandate, for an immigrant. Let's say, if I am willing to travel to Australia, and if I, would want to even go there without insurance, I might be able to do that. But then, ideally, in these conditions, today's times are really uncertain. You cannot take any such risk because health is something which comes, you have to give priority first to. You are not aware, what will happen to you while you're traveling. Let's say, as we also discussed earlier, there are a lot of different weather conditions. Some people might not be, very fit while they commute from one country which has a very hot weather, and when they, go to a different country which is completely full of cold. So you might face these complications. And trust me, I mean, if you don't have any insurance, you might land up into trouble. You might have to, invest a lot of finances in terms of that. So this was the main reason why we actually wanted to choose this topic, so that we can actually give you a lot of details about why the insurance is really primary and how you can create awareness. And yeah, before we move forward, we have a quick poll for you guys, which we would like you to answer. We would like to know your opinion in terms of a question which my team has just put. Are you familiar with the term OSHC, which is Overseas Student Health Cover Policies? So you have four options. Maybe if you just select the relevant ones, we'll get an idea. So that accordingly we can, probably put some more light on it. Okay, I can see that we are getting a few responses. Glad to see this. So mostly 71% of people have selected that yes, they are well versed with OSHC. We have 14% of people who said that they have a basic understanding, and then we also have 14% of people who would like to know more about OSHC. So yes, I mean, since we have Ila today, I would like her to add a small just of, if you would like to give our audience a basic knowledge of what is OSHC, if you can just explain it in a simple term, and then we can move forward.
Sure. So, as the term states, it's an overseas student health cover. And for me, and I always say this, for me, it's more than just ticking a box. I would say, obviously, it's mandatory. It's a mandatory requirement for any student coming to Australia to hold an overseas health cover, because the medical expenses, if you do incur it here in an unfortunate circumstance, are quite high, especially if we're coming from countries like I've seen in the audience. You're from, India, Bangladesh, a lot of people from Nepal as well. So if we do exchange the currency and do that conversion, it does
Yeah.
come down to be a very expensive exercise. So for me, as I said, it's more than just ticking a box. If you do land up in an unfortunate circumstance, as I said, OSHC makes sure you're covered. So I know a lot of people do think, it's just a requirement and I just need to take it. It's much more than that for sure. It is a mandate for a reason. It is there to protect you and safeguard you when you need it the most. And I always say this, we always pay for insurances thinking we're never going to claim it. It's only that one time when you claim it, and it's only that one time that you need it. So yes, it's definitely much more than just a health insurance policy.
Yeah, very well said, Ila. Thank you for giving our audience a basic, touch of why is it important and what is it about. So I believe now the people, who selected that, okay, they would like to learn more. I think they have a gist of it. And then, yeah, of course, moving forward, we will have a lot of other frequently asked questions. We'll be discussing it. And trust me, I mean, even if you have a very tiniest doubt, what, in case you're getting stuck anywhere regarding the processes, I'm sure a lot of things will be clear to you. So yes, moving forward, guys, we will be discussing the major problems which are basically faced by the students, while they are choosing or while they've already chosen a specific insurance provider. If they are traveling to the Australia, a different country. So yeah, the very first thing is understanding the basic policy details. A lot of people even face this problem. If I consider myself, if I just purchase a policy, if I'm very naive, I don't know much more about the policies. I'll definitely be confused by looking at the details. What is it about, and how am I supposed to claim it? Okay, the second one is addressing concerns about the cost of insurance premiums. This is also, a major question that comes into, all the students' mind. And then again, this is also one of the highlighted problems which we would like to discuss. And then providing guidance to make the claim process smoother and more efficient. Yep. So sometimes as I said, the students are very naive. They need some sort of guidance in terms of how it can be very smoother for them, and how can they efficiently, basically, utilize the insurance which they have purchased. Facilitating connections with students' chosen healthcare providers. Again, this is also something which kind of is of course a problem, because it becomes difficult for a buyer to get in touch with the insurance provider sometimes. Maybe if they are not well aware about how to reach them, or what is the correct method to do that. So we'll also be discussing that today. And coverage for mental health services. Again, I mean, not only physical health, but mental health is also important for any human being. And yeah, even these days, a lot of companies are, giving it more importance even to the mental health issues. Since we have noticed, people who generally migrate to a different country, they might not very well fit into the environment, which can lead to their mental illness. But then, yeah, this is also something which we would like to discuss it. We should be aware about. Okay. So, yes, I mean, this is something which we will be discussing in very detail moving forward. This was like a kind of index for you that, okay, what all topics will be covered and what idea you'll be getting moving forward. Okay, before I invite Ila to, speak more on the insurance policies, we would just like to give you a quick update on the, data of Australian student visa approvals. I mean, looking at these current times, I'm sure everyone knows about the policy changes which have happened by the Australian government. And not only in Australia, a lot of other countries have changed their policies in terms of accepting applications of students from various countries. But we would like to let you know that in case if the student is genuine, and if the student is deserving, Australia would love to invite them. I mean, it's not that the rejections are happening, or getting paused for all the applicants. Rather, the ones who are deserving, they of course, they are always welcome. So if you look at the data of the visa approvals, we have actually considered the data from 2019 to 2024 until the month of April. And we have actually divided it into various segments, considering all the aspects of the education, right from higher education, independent helicos, PG research sector, vet, and it is we have kind of a total figure which is displayed at the bottom. So you can see that in the year of 2019 2020, that was quite before COVID. The applications which were the visas which were approved, the figure is around 277,421. So again, it is a very big number if we look at the number. And then moving forward to year 2020 2021, we can see a very drastic drop in the numbers. Of course, everyone is aware about the COVID restrictions which ultimately were in place. And then due to that, a lot of countries, they had to close their borders and they were not inviting more applicants. So even then, you can see the numbers are good, which is 194 thousand, approximately 194,000 students, which is again a good number. But then, yeah, moving forward, if you look at the year 2021 2022, when the restrictions kind of started getting to be uplifted, the numbers soared again to similar to 2019, somewhere around that, which was around 221,000. And moving forward to 2023, 2022 to 2023, you can see almost 100% increase was noticed, because that was the correct period when all the governments had updated the travel restrictions. They were inviting more applicants, and the number which you see right now is basically 478,994. So it is kind of 100% surge in the applications. And then, yeah, of course, looking at the current scenario, as we discussed, the policies, and everything is being changed. A lot of aspects actually are, important, while the government is considering how they would like to restrict their borders, and why they would like to do that. A lot of political affairs come into picture. A lot of internal scenarios they consider, and then accordingly they decided. So due to the new policy in place, earlier it was genuine temporary entrant, which was a prerequisite for a particular student who is traveling to Australia. They had to, submit that. Now it has been changed to genuine student, and accordingly we can see that there is a small dip which is 254,462. But again, looking at the number, it is still a big number. Yeah. So, I mean, don't think that, okay, Australia is not inviting a lot of applicants, but then, yeah, I'm sure you'll come across a lot of genuine students who are deserving. You can definitely encourage them to, travel to Australia. This is more or less a kind of a graphical representation where we have shown you the jumps considering the different years. And then in case if you're also willing to have this data with you, you can let us know. My team would, be very happy to share this data with you, on your personal emails in case if you'd like to have a quick analysis. So yeah, moving forward, there is one more question that we would like you to answer, guys. We are really curious to know. We will be submitting a question shortly. Yeah, I think it is on the screens. So if you can read, do you deal with Australia immigration? The participants who have joined our, webinar today. In case if you are dealing with Australia immigration, if you're not, maybe you can select the relevant option and then you can just submit your responses. It'll really help us to, blend the content and even give you the exact information, which in case if you're not aware, we will be definitely letting you know that. I can see that 67% of people have kind of a, some involvement. They're not very much aggressively doing Australia, but then, yeah, there are 33% of people who are basically, into Australia. So moving forward, guys, thank you for your response. Okay, so finally, let's get started. I would now, like to invite Ila again to provide, and throw some more light on the questions that we will be portraying in front of your screens. So, yes, Ila, I mean, what do you think? What should, a student look for in a proper like health insurance plan while they are purchasing any particular policy? So, if you can give us some inputs on that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think, Bhavesh, we should be looking at, I think this goes with any insurance policy. We should be looking at what is included in the plan, what are the inclusions, what all is covered, most importantly, not just the tick marks, but I'll discuss it in detail on what to look for it. But yeah, what all is included, what's not included also. So, that if you do fall into an event, what would all be you covered for it, but also what would be your out of pocket cost. So,
Yeah.
that the history of claims themselves on, as an individual, you should know, what would be your history and how many times do you visit a doctor? What would be, are you a regular or you don't really fall sick or, it's just in a once in a lifetime event, things like that. And based on that should make choices on what to choose, which insurance policy to choose, and definitely a reputation of an organization as well. And when I say that, I say it because when it comes to finally claiming, you could take a cheap policy and you can take it from anywhere, but ultimately when you need it and when you come to claim for it, a reputed organization would not give you hassle and harassment while claiming for it, right? Because they do deal with it on a day-to-day basis. So definitely, they're not there for a short term, if that makes sense. A reputable organization is there for a longer term. They're there to support you as well. So all of these things you should look into your policy when you're buying one, even if it's I always say this, even if it's a couple of $100 more. But when it comes to ultimately using that policy, you would find your money's worth. So do look for these three things in your policy. It'll help you in the long run.
Oh, perfect. I mean, this is a really good advice, Ila, that you just gave. Even if, we can even, if you have any students, you can actually properly guide them in case if they are confused about purchasing their policy or what they should look for. Ila kind of clearly explained the entire details that, okay, whether they have any history of, medical, whether they frequently visit the doctor or not, or how usually they fall sick, and then accordingly even the provider also matters. So this is something which is kind of making more sense. And then yeah, I think a lot of people must have got a clarification on what exactly should a person look in while purchasing an insurance health policy. So great. Let's jump on to the next question, guys. Yes, Ila, coming back to you. What, according to you, I mean, what medical expenses are typically covered under overseas student health policies? If you can just throw some more light on that.
Sure. So what you see on your screen, I would go through it in detail. So, first of all, out of hospital medical expenses. Now, a lot of people would be confused. What is out of hospital medical expenses? Now, to give you clarity and an idea, health and medical doesn't work exactly the same way here in Australia as it does, in countries like India, Pakistan, Nepal, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, things like that. Because I know in countries like this, if you do fall sick, even if you have a cold, cough, fever, you can go to a hospital straight away, right? It doesn't
Yeah.
work like that here. You can you
Okay.
cannot go to a hospital. Well, you can, they would not attend to you, right? So if you've
Oh.
got a minor sickness like a fever, a cold, or a cough,
Mm.
you have to go to your GP, which is your local doctor, a general practitioner. So that's where you'd be seen in a hospital. If you go for a cold and cough, they will send you back to again go to your local doctor, right? So that is
Okay.
because they don't want to pressurize the hospital systems, what we see in India, right? So, or,
Mm.
countries like the subcontinent, India, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, and things like that. We go to hospitals and they're usually very busy, right? So the
Yeah.
government doesn't want to do that here. So if people start rocking up and lining up in the hospitals just for a common cold or flu, the hospitals are going to be very, very busy. And the emergency cases that really need attention would not be attended to, right? So
I see.
things like these, you're always referred to a GP, and that is called out of hospital medical expenses, right? So,
Okay.
um, so for anything, the first point of contact should be your GP if it's not an emergency, right? So, all of that should be typically covered under your overseas health cover, right? Medical services provided in the hospital. So obviously, in an unfortunate circumstance, you do land up in a hospital, all of those medical expenses should be covered in your health policies. An emergency ambulance should be covered in your health cover policy. So an emergency ambulance usually costs around $1,500 for one trip, right?
Wow.
So that could be the entire cost of your entire policy. So usually policies for 2, 3 years costs about that, right? So that is just one trip for the ambulance. So that is covered. So that gives you your money's worth already. If you do call an ambulance in an emergency, that should be covered.
Yeah.
Surgically implanted prosthetics. So if you are in an unfortunate incident, an accident, and if you do require any prosthetic implantation, all of that should be covered in your health policy as well. Pathology, which is your blood tests, should be covered as well. Any prescription medicines, and we'll discuss about the caps and caveats on it in detail later, but that should be covered in your health insurance policies as well. And radiology, which is your x-rays and things like that, all of that is covered in your overseas health insurance policy as well.
I see. Okay. Yeah, I mean, Ila, this is something which is again very new for me. I wasn't really aware about, like, okay, we have a lot of details in this particular thing that, okay, all these things are covered. I had a few
Mhm.
doubts. I mean, it is pretty much clear to me right now. And I'm sure
Yes.
even our audience, kind of got good insight. If someone, if or any of your students is coming and asking to you what all things are covered, you can definitely just, confidently tell them that okay, this is something which will be completely covered by a provider. So great. We can jump to the next question again, which is even I find this question really interesting. So what are the maximum benefit amounts and any caps on the insurance coverage? If you could just give some information about this question, Ila.
Sure. Yes, so there are definitely caps on the prescription benefit amounts. And when I say there are caps on that, that is pretty much the only cap you've got, right? So if you are prescribed a medicine, you will get up to $50 for that prescription medicine. So it
Okay.
is the caps are based on a PBS schedule, right? So PBS schedule is a pharmacy benefit scheme, which is similar to what benefits the government provides to an Australian citizen or an Australian permanent resident, right? So people who are on this call and who are not aware, anyone who's an Australian citizen or an Australian permanent resident has access to free medical services for most of the cases, right? So there are a few things that we need to pay for, but most of the things are pretty much free of cost, right? So what that means is government provides and government pays for our medical bills. So, but there are obviously caps for everything, right? And there are schedules on the basis of which the medical providers get paid, right? So, for example, if I'm going to a doctor, doesn't mean if it's free for me, it's free for the doctor as well. He's giving up his time and his expertise. He's definitely getting paid for it, right? So, the government is paying him something, and there is a definite schedule on the basis of which the doctor is getting paid. So, that schedule is called a Medicare benefit scheme. Right. So, based on that schedule, so for example, if I've just gone to a doctor for a consultation, the doctor would be paid, an X amount of dollars for that consultation. If I've gone to a doctor for, say, a vaccination, he'd be paid an X amount of dollars for that vaccination. So everything is prescribed in that schedule, right? Similar to that, we've got PBS, which is on your screen, which is a pharmacy benefit schedule. So for each prescription medicine, you get $50, and that is capped on it. So in each year, so that would be on one prescription, but for each year, it's capped on $300 for single applicants and $600 for couples or families. And when I talk about cappings and caveats, that is pretty much cappings and caveats that you see on your screen, right? So there is no other caps for any other treatments. So if you do land up in a hospital, there are claims that we've paid up to $500,000 as well. So people have claimed up to $500,000 that, they were in an unfortunate incident and they had to go to a hospital, and we received a bill for $500,000 and we've paid it, right? So when I say that amount, in front of that amount, these amounts look very, very small and minimal, but these are paid as well, right? So most of the medicines are not that expensive in Australia. So for example, a paracetamol, 100 tablets for it would be about $3, which is, whatever you can convert in your currency. So 100 tablets, about $3. So it's not that expensive. So don't think that, these are $50, I can't do much with it. It is a lot that you can do with it. It's not that expensive, the medicines here, right? So, yes, so there are caps, yes, but just on the prescription medicines. All the other ones, as long as they are legitimate treatments and they're incurred within your policy dates, yes, we do cover them.
Great. Yeah, I mean, again, this also kind of gave in good insight. If at all anyone had this question in their mind, I'm sure it must be pretty clear for now. Thank you for highlighting this, Ila. Now,
No
yes, hopping to the next question. Okay. This is also one of the important question, I can say very frequently asked question, which comes to a specific student's mind, or even the consultants who are purchasing the policies on their behalf. So is coverage available for pre-existing medical conditions, Ila? If you can
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it is, Bhavesh. It is covered, but there could be waiting periods on it. So on standard pre-existing conditions, there is a waiting period of 12 months that you need to serve. So it's not that it's not covered and it'll not be treated. You just have to serve the waiting period. So when you arrive in the country, your waiting period starts from when you arrive in the country. And you hold an OSHC policy during that period along with your student visa. So you can't be on a visitor visa holding an OSHC policy and start your waiting periods. You need to be on a student visa and hold an OSHC policy. So the day you arrive with those two things is when you start your waiting periods. And yes, so coverage is available for sure. And for mental health conditions, there is a 2-month waiting period, right? So yes, everything is covered. There's just caps that apply. Also for pregnancy, there is waiting. So even though it's not pre-existing, it is counted in the same category. There is a standard waiting period of 12 months for pregnancy as well. So from when you purchased your policy or when you arrived in your country, in Australia, on a student visa, if you do fall pregnant, you would have to wait for 12 months before that pregnancy can be covered.
Yes. So, I mean, as everyone can see that the providers these days, the time, the times are changing. As we were also discussing earlier, that we have a lot of physical, issues, but considering
Mhm.
mental health conditions as well, you can see the
Yeah,
cap which is being given by the government or the providers according to the policies which they have designed is
yes,
ultimately lesser than the physical conditions. So you can see how important they are considering the mental well-being of any students who are basically traveling to Australia. So
absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. And just to add to it, Bhavesh, I think just with the current data that we have, I think mental health cases are on their all-time high. It's been seen from teenagers to people in early 20s, which is a very unusual times that we're
Yeah.
living in. So we have reduced that to 2 months. And even some students who arrive in the country,
Mhm.
do feel homesick at times and things like that. So, they could feel mentally, not completely sound. So all of that is covered under your policy. If you do want to go and see a mental health practitioner, you can see that after 2 months.
Great, great. Again, glad to know that Ila clarified a lot of things in my mind. Okay, hopping on to the next question, guys. What are the common misconceptions regarding health policies? So, if you can even just throw some more light on this, Ila.
Sure, I love this one. So a lot of people. I think we also had a question on that. So, couples coverage. Do not ever buy two single policies for a couples policy. It would not be covered when you'd go and claim for it, right? So then you might get a visa, yes, because the case officer is not checking for your health insurance policy, he's checking for everything else, right? So but when you go to claim, the first thing a health insurance provider does is check which visa are you on, right? So if you've got a dependent on your visa, or if you are on a dependent visa, but you've not got the appropriate cover, which should be a couples or a family cover, we would not cover you, right? So it's very important. Yes, if you arrive in Australia as a single applicant, but then later on you've gotten married, circumstances have changed, you've had a baby, things like that, make sure to keep adding your family onto your policy, right? So, yeah, if you do buy two single covers, you would not be covered. So, again, I keep saying it, in an event of an unfortunate circumstance when you need your policy the most, you want to make sure you've got the right with the right coverage, so you are covered 100%, because the medical expenses could be quite high when you arrive in countries like this, which is the entire point of having a mandatory health insurance. Make sure it is the right one that you take, right? So it's the same thing with the single applicants. Uh, we get a lot of single applicants between 20 and 25 years of age, and they think,
Yeah.
we never go to a doctor, we're never going to claim. So let me not buy a policy, or let me buy the cheapest product. No,
Yeah.
that's not how it works. I can give you an example from, a personal circumstance. We had a friend visit, and the brother came with the friend, and within 22 years old, I think 22, 23 years old, within
Okay.
4 days of being here, landed into a hospital with an appendicitis that had burst. Right, so yeah, so as soon as landing in the country, they were feeling pains and things like that, but they thought, oh, it's fine. How, everybody
Mm.
ignores their conditions. I think boys do it more than anybody else. Um,
That's true. Yeah.
they ignored it as well. And 3 days later, they were in the hospital. The appendicitis had burst. And glad they had the policy. It was covered, and there was a bill of about $7,000, and it was all covered under their policy. So don't be under this misconception, guys, that you're never going to claim the policy. It's pretty much like a car insurance. We still buy car insurance because there'd only be one time that we might be in an accident and we might be claiming it. It's exactly the same thing with your health. Don't risk it. Always buy the right policy, and look at the inclusions. don't think you're never going to claim it, because you never know when you would claim it. So yeah, these are the common two that I usually get, and I thought it's good to address it here.
No, of course. I mean, thank you for sharing that example with us, Ila. I'm sure you must have come across a lot of other scenarios as well. But then, yeah,
Yes.
this makes a complete sense. Talking about even myself, someday somehow when I was in my early 20s, I thought, why insurance policy? I mean, nothing is going to happen to me. But then later when we came across these situations and we realized that okay, everything is uncertain, nothing is in our control. And
Yes.
talking about the finances, of course, if I am a student, let's say if I am traveling on a student loan, if I'm not from a very well-to-do family, and if something happens to me over there, then I might come under a debt again, which can if I'm willing to pay the hospital bill, if I don't have an insurance policy or a proper
Exactly.
coverage for me. So of course, I mean, this is something which we should actually, spread this knowledge to all the students who are coming to you, and even the couples who are, coming to you, who are willing to travel together on a student visa.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I think,
kindly guide
and
them.
I think
Mhm.
it's much more important here, Bhavesh, because we're traveling into a country which we don't know about, right? We don't have much family or friends here. So
That's true.
I think our health should be the topmost priority that we should be safeguarding us for. So the average cost of a room in Australia, of a hospital room in Australia,
Yeah.
could be about $2,000 for a night, right?
Oh,
So,
yeah.
and it varies from state to state. This is an average one. If you go to Western Australia, that's got the most cost. I think it's about $3,000 a
Oh,
night. So about 2,800 to 3,000, something like that. So if you end up staying in the hospital just for one night, that's your bill. And even if you do have a lot of family or friends, they, I don't think it's a financial stress that you want to put anyone under or yourself under, right? So
that's true.
why do that to anybody or to yourself when you can be safeguarded against it?
No, of course, of course. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm sure, even the people who have joined in, they will be able to convey this message properly to their, students and the clients, so that
Mhm.
they can guide them properly and then, avoid them to land up into any mishaps or, any troubles while they are migrating to a different country. Great.
Mhm.
Great to know
Absolutely.
these. Jumping back to the next question. Okay. So this is also something, which also kind of comes into my mind, if I'm willing to purchase a policy, Ila. So if you can throw some light on whether students can choose their doctors and hospitals, if at all they are willing to, go to a specific one or a specific location for that matter.
Yes, they sure can, Bhavesh. Now, at Allianz, we've got the largest network of doctors and hospitals on our books. So we've got more than 1,000 doctors on our books, right? So what I mean by that is we've got a map on our, or basically a tool on our website and on our app, where if you put in your location where you are in Australia, you will find doctors that are on our books around you, right? So
Makes
the
sense.
icons that you see on screen. So there could be direct billing doctors where you can, go and visit the doctor, and it's very likely that you don't have to pay anything out of pocket. So once you visit that doctor, the bill comes to us straight away, and we take care of the bill, right? So usually that is the case. There could be doctors who could charge gap fee, and I talk about it. There are doctors that you can consult over the phone with, right? So there is Allianz Care telehealth doctors, and then there are doctors who can visit you over at your home after hours. So if you're not able to go, you're totally very sick, or if it's after hours, you're not able to make it to the doctors, they can come to your home, right? So you can do that with the tool, but in case you've got a preference with a doctor who is not on our books, you can definitely go to them as well. But it only means is if they do charge a fee, you might have to pay the fee and then claim it back from us, right? So, but something important to note, which I don't think a lot of people talk about, and it's not very clearly explained it to people, is what is covered in your policy is always MBS, right? So what I explained before, MBS is a Medicare benefit schedule, right?
Mhm.
So what the government pays to a doctor for an Australian citizen or an Australian permanent resident is what we pay as a health insurance provider to your policy holder as well, right? So, for example, if a doctor is charging $70 for the visit,
Yeah.
not necessary is, that $70 completely would be covered, because that would not be on the MBS, right? So if
Right.
MBS schedule says it's $40 that the government pays, that is what we'd cover you for, right? So you might have to pay $30 out of pocket. Again, this is not knowledge which is common or which is given to the students. So always look for those doctors. What are they charging? What could be your out of pocket cost? What is covered in your policy, right? Because health insurance providers, including Allianz, usually would only cover the MBS, right? So, yes, so to answer your questions, you can always choose your doctors and hospitals.
Yeah.
If it's on our book, we usually pay the doctors directly. That is the usual case.
Yeah.
Not always the case, though. But if you do want to choose your doctor and who's not on our book, you might have to just pay and claim it back from us later.
Yeah, I
Okay.
mean, makes sense, of course, and I can see that this is a really good, feature that you guys are offering, where the students or the immigrants can actually find doctors, or where they can rush to very quickly. So I think this is really helpful, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure, even as you mentioned that Allianz actually take care of the entire, medical expenses that you mentioned is being taken care by the government of Australia for the citizens. You guys are doing it for the policy holders. So
Correct.
really, great to know that. Okay, again, this kind of, made things clear to my mind. Moving to the next question. Does the policy include coverage for travel related incidents? Okay, this is also very interesting. I would like to know more. I mean, even I am keen to know more, even than than the audience. So yeah, please go ahead, Ila.
Yes, definitely there is coverage for travel related incidents, Bhavesh, but only within Australia. So if you're traveling within Australia, you will be covered for sure. Obviously, if you're outside of Australia, that goes out of scope from the policy. You're no longer within the shores of the country, so that would not be covered. But anything within Australia, you're covered, traveling interstate and something happens. There have been incidents where we've airlifted students, so they've fallen into unfortunate accidents, and we've airlifted them, taken them to the nearest hospitals, and so on and so forth. So yes, it's all covered within your policy.
Great. Yeah, of course. I mean, this is something which kind of works for anyone. Anyways, if you are, traveling outside the Australia, so more or less the provider is not bounded to, the other countries' policies and how they work.
Correct.
But at least if I am a student, I'm sure I'll, if I'm traveling, I will be exploring the country even while I'm on my student visa. So again, this can be
Yes,
really helpful for me, even in that
absolutely.
case as well. Great. Great to know that. Okay, so just a kind of a quick information for each and every one of us. What should students do in case of a medical emergency, Ila? Do you guys have any quick access to the medical services back there?
Yes, so they can call 000. That is our national emergency number here, for police, ambulance, and other emergencies. So call 000, call for an ambulance if it's a medical emergency. Usually the arrival time of an ambulance is 7 minutes within any
Okay,
location to Australia. So even when you're remote, usually that is the time that an ambulance arrives to you. So yes, definitely give 000 a call. That number is accessible even if you don't have reception on your phone. So it's an SOS number.
SOS. Yeah.
Yes, make sure you've got that either saved or memorized, whatever it is. But yeah, that is something that you should do in case of medical emergency.
Glad to know that the response time of the ambulance is very short in comparison to the other countries. Like the ambulance reaches there in 7 minutes, within 7 minutes, which
Mhm.
is very helpful. Again, a good knowledge for me today. So perfect. Jumping back to the other question, which is what medical conditions or situations are not covered by the policy? Okay, this is
Mhm.
also something I'm sure which a lot of people would like to know more, since we already checked what all things are covered, and now it's time for the things which are not covered. So yeah, over to you, Ila.
Yes, I think it's very important, almost as important to know as what is covered in your policy. So, yeah, so it's pretty similar to, again, what an Australian citizen or permanent resident receive as a part of their medical in Australia. So, physiotherapy or chiropractic services are not covered in your policy. Any
Okay.
contact lenses or eyeglass prescriptions are not covered in the policy. IVF treatments, if you're trying for that, are not covered in the policy as well. Any dentals are not covered in the policy. Any elective cosmetic surgery procedures, if somebody wants to look prettier and get some plastic surgery done, that is not covered.
Yeah.
Medications, or any other prescription drugs that are not prescribed by a doctor are not and are not included in the PBS are also not covered. And any treatment rendered outside of Australia is also not covered, right? So also, yeah, repatriation to home or any other country is also not covered. So it's pretty similar and in line with what we receive as Australian citizens or PRs. And yeah, all of these are not covered. However, some of these services could be purchased by purchasing something which is called an OSHC Extra. So if you
Okay.
do hold an Allianz Care policy, all you need to do is just go online and on our website and just purchase an OSHC Extra. And some of these services like physiotherapy and things like that could be, not all of them, just two or three of them could be included onto your policy if you pay a little bit of an additional premium to it.
No, of course. I mean, glad to know that you also have this with HC Extra, the policy. If someone is with a pre-existing medical condition, let's say, they require these physio sessions on an frequent basis due to any, physical problems, I think then it'll be a good option for them to get the other policy that you just mentioned. Okay.
Mhm.
Again, thank you for highlighting the things which are not covered in the policy. I'm sure a lot of minds have been cleared now. Okay, jumping on to the next question then. I'm sure this is also, again, a very important question which requires a good amount of discussion. So, yes, Ila, I mean, how can students renew or extend their insurance, health insurance coverage if they are back there in Australia?
They can either contact their insurance provider, Bhavesh, or they can get in touch with their agent to renew or extend their policy. I would say, probably getting in touch with the agent could be the best way to go, because I think the agent knows the history of a student and also the current circumstances as well, so they can probably advise on things like these. If a student doesn't have knowledge about which policy to choose and what to look for, I think an agent can help in that one as well. So can an insurance provider. I think an agent just is close to home, I think, but there are both options available. They can go to their agent and, the agent can definitely help sort their extensions or renewals.
That was pretty easy to understand. Thank you
Mhm.
for putting it into nice words for us. Okay, moving forward, this is also something which is important for all the immigration consultants who are with us, education consultant with us, in case if they come across any such question for if any student is asking them. So how can students file a claim, basically if they are onshore and if they want to do that? If you can just throw some more light on this.
Yeah, and I think it's an important question as well. Ultimately, if a policy is bought, the students should know how to lodge a claim, and it's pretty simple. All they can do is either they can go to, we've designed a portal or an app for the students. They can download that and
Yeah.
they can go to it's called My Health app. So they can either download it on their phone or go to the portal online. So just put in their policy number and follow the steps. That's how simple it is. I think everybody is quite tech savvy these days. So, technology doesn't need to be taught to students these days, or,
That's
agents
true.
that matter. I think we all work on computers and things like that. So
Yeah.
all they need to do is just follow the steps. There. So all you'd have to do is put in the details of the claim, upload an invoice. It's as simple as that. So take a photo of the invoice and upload it and put the details in there, and that's how it is. So the app actually and the portal both actually give you an option of tracking your claim as well on how far it's processed. So
Oh,
yeah, so you can definitely do that as well.
that's great. I mean, as you mentioned even earlier, students sometimes they don't have more or less their friends or relatives staying back there in the country. So it is kind of very easy process for them to just do it on their own while they are,
Correct.
getting discharged. So again, glad to know that.
Mhm.
Uh, okay, so Ela is basically, since as I mentioned, she's representing Allianz Healthcare, and if any one of you, is willing to check out the Allianz OSHC health insurance plan for your students, my team would be dropping a quick link for you in the chat box, and then you can definitely check it out. And if you'd like to add something over here, Ela, any words from your side?
Just that, look at the fine print, I'd say, Bhavesh, because, yeah, as I said, the medical expenses could be quite high. Look at what is included. Yeah, look at our plans in details as well on what's included. We do have one of the best products out there in the market. So if somebody wants to compare as well, do go ahead and compare. And yeah, I'm pretty confident with our product. A lot of students, we do get a feedback from a lot of students about it time to time. So yeah, but if there's any questions about the particular plan as well, please feel free to drop that in, and I'll be more than happy to answer.
Sure. I kind of noticed that there were, a few questions coming in the chat box, but sorry for keeping you, waiting, guys. Let's wait for our question and answers round. It's just, a few minutes away. And then I'm sure, Ela is with us. She'd be more than happy to answer all your questions, all together. So, okay. Moving to the next part of our webinar, guys. Uh, we would just like to give you some insights in terms of what exactly can not exactly but then how the future of international student healthcare is looking like, considering all the changes which are happening in all the industries, the technical revolution which is happening. So according to us, I think, I mean, we would also love to know your inputs, maybe whether you think that way or not, Ela. I think that there
Sure.
will be an increased demand for comprehensive coverages. So with the growing awareness of the health risks, students within their with the students and their families as well, they are prioritizing more of comprehensive health insurance plans in terms of whether they will not only cover the basic medical expenses, as you said, and even as you said that even Allianz does that, but they are also covering the mental health services as well as the telehealth consultations which are required. And looking at the recent pandemic situations, I believe moving forward, the providers will also focus on pandemic related coverages as well.
I think I have to agree with you, Bhavesh. I think not only that, I would also like to add students these days are quite aware as well, which is a great thing.
Yeah,
I actually quite like when a customer is quite aware and aware of, what they're purchasing and aware of their rights and things like that. So I think, yes, it'll be there'll be more demand of a good product, of a comprehensive product, what you mentioned, because at the end of the day, I think awareness ultimately leads to the demand of what's required. So
correct.
definitely I agree with you there that the demand for comprehensive covers is going to increase, and good products will obviously prevail in the market, other than rather than just having a tick box on your policy.
Yeah, that's true. And also, looking at the technological revolution, as I mentioned, which is happening, a lot of insurance providers, they are kind of integrating, good amount of technologies with their portals. They are investing good numbers, to make sure that they digitalize everything so that it is quite easily accessible to all the purchasers. And I mean, looking at the future, I think it'll be they'll be making easier access to the healthcare services moving forward. And then the services like telemedicine, mobile health apps, online portals, different online portals linked to their websites will be coming in really soon. so that regardless of the student's location, they're very easily able to have the efficient information with them, or they're able to access or even claim their policies with just a few clicks.
Correct. And I think we're nearly there as Allianz because I think we revamped
Yeah.
the entire portal. I think it was in 2021, if I'm not wrong. So, which has been quite recent, and we've kept up with the technological advancements and the demands of what our students wanted. So, I think again, with the feedback, I can tell you, I think our portal is one of the best ones in the market as well. It's quite comprehensive itself, and on the go, students, if they're on the train and things like that, they have access to information on the tips of their fingertips. And same thing with their claims. They can, be on the go, on train,
Yeah.
somewhere, and they can do their claims and things like that. So I think we're already nearly there with continuous improvement. Obviously, there's always room for improvement, and we're continuously improving.
Of course, of course. Yeah, I mean, more or less, I think this is what we think as of now, what all major changes could come into this industry. And
Mhm.
as Ela also shared some inputs. So I think a lot of people got an idea what exactly is the future of insurance looking like. Okay, now is basically the right time for asking all the questions. So we would love to give you the responses accordingly. Okay, so I would just quickly take the questions from the chat as well, Ela, so that it becomes easier for you to answer.
Sure.
Okay, so the very first question which we got in the chat box was from Mishu. They asked that is pathology services 100% covered? So yeah, if you can just respond to Mishu's question.
Sure, Mishu. So, firstly, I'll encourage you to go and view our plans. I think the team has shared the plans, and just go and view it. From memory, I think we cover 85% of the MBS for pathology. But yeah, do double check that. Please don't quote me on it. I've got too much information in my head. So, but I think yeah, 85% of the MBS is what we cover. So from memory, but yeah, do go out and check our plans. It should be mentioned there for sure.
Great. I hope Mishu was able to get the answer. Okay. Yeah, I believe already, categorize it in the question and answer section over here. Easier for me to
Mhm.
read now. Okay.
Sure.
The next question is there any situation where a student could receive benefits immediately rather than waiting for the standard waiting period in the event of a serious disease? And
Well,
one more,
mhm,
yeah, sorry to cut you off, Ila. There is one more
mhm,
question just linked to it. Would he
mhm.
or she be covered under OSHC in such a case?
Yeah, sure. So as long as it's not a pre-existing one, you can start getting the benefits straight away. If it is pre-existing, you definitely would need to obviously serve the waiting period. And look, how we qualify pre-existing, or how the doctors qualify pre-existing, is you have been aware of the condition for more than 6 months, or you've been receiving treatments for the condition for more than 6 months. It usually is what is called pre-existing, right? So
Yeah.
obviously, this is just generic information that I can give you. Everything depends on the case to case basis. Once we do receive a case, it is obviously triaged based on its merits. So, but yeah, as long as it's not pre-existing, they can start receiving benefits straight away, right? But if it is pre-existing, unfortunately, you would need to serve waiting periods for it.
Okay. So this question was asked by Arav. I believe Arav now has a good clarity on this. Okay, one more question has come up from Mishu. They're asking, is there any service provider giving 100% coverage? According to, I mean, of course, Ila, you can definitely speak, regarding Allianz, but then just as
Yes.
per your understanding, do you think that any provider does that?
I am not sure, Bhavesh, to be very
Yeah,
honest. I can only speak for
exactly.
Allianz's products. And again, I always say this, when you're doing a comparison, don't just look for tick marks. Usually the websites just say tick, 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 tick. But at
Yeah,
the end of the day, I can only give you an example, right? So if you go on a website, say, for example, if you're looking at your a cover for your parents, for example, even though we're talking about a student health insurance, but let's talk about if your parents are visiting you and you're looking for a coverage for your parents, right? And they're over 70, right? Allianz is the only provider that meets the immigration requirements for that age group, right? So even though when you go on the comparison website, you would see tick, 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 this is covered, that is covered, this is covered, and you might even see the price difference. But what is not covered is cardiacs, things like that, right? So because people over 70, are likely to get into cardiac issues, right? And not a lot of providers cover that. So even though I can't answer the question that if any other service provider covers it 100%, I can definitely tell you, um, we're at least transparent, right? So we're quite transparent on what we cover,
Yeah.
and we just don't give you a tick mark. And that's why I've been very, detailed in my explanations and MBS. And I don't know if you've ever heard those terms before, but yeah, do go into a fine print and look at it, even in our product. So yeah, that's all I can give you an answer for that, Mishu. Unfortunately, I can't talk for any other provider. I'm not aware of that. So yeah, I can only talk for Allianz.
No, I think you kind of gave a good understanding for this question. I'm sure Vishu must have a good clarification, received from this answer. Okay, and we have one more question from Yasin. I believe. Okay, I'll just try to read that. Do Pakistani students can get? I mean, I think he's trying to say whether Pakistani students can purchase a policy and get the benefits of that insurance policy. If I'm not wrong, Yasin, is this what you mean, or is it something that you were trying to say? Anything else? Please elaborate your question if possible.
Well, if that's what the question is, Yassine, absolutely. We don't discriminate against, nationalities or things like that. Students are students to us, whether they come from any part of the world, the coverage is exactly the same for everybody. So, yes, whether you're from Pakistan or Bangladesh or India or everywhere, it's exactly the same coverage. And yes, to answer your question, yes, definitely, it's covered.
Do we have any more questions coming in, guys? I mean, feel free to take this opportunity since you have the subject matter expert with you. This is something which will not be easily available to you on daily basis. This is a once probably in a blue moon that happens. So take this opportunity, and if you want to ask more questions, just feel free to drop that in the chat box. Okay, maybe feel free to even drop in, and if at all we miss out on any such questions, we'll make sure we coordinate with Ila, and then we'll respond it to you over your registered email addresses. So great. I think there were few questions that we answered, and then I'm sure the other people in audience must have also be benefited from that. Okay, so for all the people who have participated in this webinar, we just want you to give you a quick gist about us. Who exactly are we? So I am actually representing Conze right now. Conze basically specializes in providing edu-immigration IT solutions. We have several products. You can see that we are building exceptional SaaS-based solutions to reform education and immigration industry. And if I talk about the products that we have in the market right now, we have a full-fledged smart CRM, which can be utilized to manage your entire client base. We have Compare, which is an insurance policy comparison portal where you can purchase or the policies or even send quotations to your students and see what all different providers have to offer. And Consign is basically an e-signature platform which helps you to go green, reduce the paperwork, and use the most of the technology. And then you also have Search My Ensco. So if people who are dealing aggressively into Australian market, if they want to check the occupation eligibility of a particular student, they can even use our product as well, which is Search My Ensco. And if anyone is willing to know more about either of these products, feel free to reach out to us guys. We'd be more than happy to provide you one-on-one sessions, online sessions, where we can give you the good demo of any interested product that you are looking to know more about. Okay, so thank you guys. At the very end of this webinar, I would like to thank each one of you for showing a very active participation, and special thanks to you, Ila, for being so patient with us, answering each and every question in a very organized and a very nice manner, so that even a person who is very naive can understand all the details, and ultimately encourage their students to choose the correct policy when they are traveling to Australia. So
Not a problem,
okay.
Bhavesh. It's absolutely been my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. It's been a great session. Thank you. And thank you for everyone who's attended as well. Thank you. I appreciate it.